Hey everybody, my name's Gary Essig and I'm with Protection Specialists International out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I want to thank you for tuning in. I'm going to try and keep this brief. I just got back from Washington, D.C. with a client, and when I got back, my email and my voicemail were stacked, full. And the hard part is that I left the day after this most recent tragedy at a church in Sutherland Springs, Texas happened. I'm on the road, and obviously I was focused on what I needed to do, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to really dig into it. And while the facts are still coming in, some of the things that have been coming up in the emails and voicemails and the conversations I've had since I got back are, hey, what can we do to protect our church? What can we do to start putting a program together? Here's the ironic part. Many of those people are people that have sat in my church security conferences before. Many of those people are people that I've gone and sat down and talked with and given them ideas. But you know what happens? They set it on the shelf. Now, this is not about blame. That deal in Sutherland Springs, what a tragedy. And our prayers here at PSI go out to all those families, the victims, the few survivors, right? Because there was only 4 out of 50 that were unscathed and another 20 that were injured, but 26 died. The ripple effect of this tragedy is going to go on and on and on. So our prayers go out to them. We have to learn from these things. And this isn't the first one. And suffice it to say, the world we live in today, the way things are going tells me it's not going to be the last. The question is, what are we willing to do about it? Are we willing to get out of the boat, step out of the boat and start taking some steps? One of the arguments that people have when it comes to starting a church security program is, I don't like the optics. I don't like how it looks. Churches are supposed to be sacred places. Well, guess what? Schools used to be safe too. We didn't think we need security in schools. Then Columbine happened. But the long and short of it, when you look at crime, you look at the threat of terrorism, when you look at domestic violence, when you look at just in divorces, custody battles, when you look at mental instabilities, and you look at drug addictions and the things that people deal with, come on. Do you really think that we're immune to it? Do you really think that because it's the church? By the way, churches are open and inviting, so these people need to come in. We need to have, they're the sick, right? The well don't need a doctor. The sick do, and the great physician is Jesus Christ. So the long and short of it is we're going to see these things happening. So what are we willing to do? They don't like the optics. Well, what are the optics when something does go wrong? They don't want to spend the money. They don't want the expense. Well, let's start having a paradigm shift and take our eyes off expense and turn it into investment. An expense is something that when you spend the money, it's gone, right? But an investment, now there's a return. Do you see any return in the thought process of protecting your pastors, your congregation, your visitors, your guests, your children? Come on, let's get out of the boat. Let's start thinking proactively here. And there's some steps you can take, right? I'm not going to sit and preach to you. I want to give you some steps you can take. Contact your local law enforcement agencies. I guarantee that they've got a resource officer who's willing to come out and talk with you. Contact local churches in your area. If you're not doing it, I guarantee somebody's got the discernment already to have this thing going on. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Somebody's already doing it. Sit down and talk with them. There are people that are willing to share. Reach out. There are people like our company who, this is what we do. This is why we were built. There are people like me. This is why I was made. God designed me in the design room of heaven to be a protector and to try and get this message out right now for this time. And so there are people out there. And by the way, this isn't about me. It doesn't matter whether you contact me. Contact somebody else, but contact somebody, right? The Bible tells us in Proverbs 22:3 and 27:12. If you read those, they're the same scripture, right? And I'm going to paraphrase here, but in the Message version, it says, the simpleton goes in blindly and is clobbered. Really? So the prudent person foresees danger and ducks. The simpleton goes in blindly and is clobbered. That's in the Message version. And it says it twice in the same book of the Bible. That's the book of wisdom, right? So as you see that, I think that's a verily, verily, I say unto thee moment. He's telling us we need to be proactive. And it's not just in this area, it's in many areas. But this is one of them. So we can't dismiss it. The lights, that's great. The music, awesome. The worship, man, that's what we're there for. We're there to worship the King of Kings. But the long and short of it is that we have a thing called duty of care. As leadership and as the church, we have to start taking steps to protect those that come to worship in our sanctuaries. And you know what? It's funny because I walk into the church these days and I don't have people going, oh man, we wish you weren't here, blah, blah, blah. No, you know what they're saying? Hey, we thank you so much for being here. You and your team and the way you do things, we really appreciate the fact that you protect our church and that you're willing to do some things that other people aren't willing to do. Well, guess what? We're not any more or less important than anybody else out there. We're all just doing our thing. But there is a need for it. And we know that it's Him. We don't walk in fear, we walk in faith. It's His hand and His fingerprints all over what we do that makes this successful. But the long and short of it is, He's there and we're here and He uses people. I guarantee, when you talk about, let's just talk about the blessings of God. When He has put an infusion of finances or something, you've never gotten a check signed Jehovah Jireh. No, you've gotten a check signed by somebody else and you're like, wow, that's the hand of God. You're right, it is. He works through people, right? So the long and short of it is divine protection is there, but He's going to work through people. The key to this, get in touch with law enforcement, figure out what's in your area, get in touch with other churches, start to think about who you have in your church that might be able to be part of this program. And it's got to be a program. Having a couple off-duty cops, having a couple former military guys, and 2 guys that have their permit to carry, and you put them in there, that's not a program. That's a small group. In fact, it's a recipe for disaster if you don't at least have somebody bringing these people together and training them so they know what the other person's going to do. That's a program. That's a plan, right? The rest is just a small group. So I tell you what, in this link, you're going to find some contact information for us. If you're not in my area, that's okay. I am so networked in this nation when it comes to church security. If you contact me, I'll put you in touch with somebody in your area that can help you get started. I'm passionate about it. If it seems like I'm a little hyped about it, that's because I believe that people need to be able to worship in peace and safety. And I believe that if you start taking the steps, the Lord will bless your steps. He's not going to just bless your thoughts. He's not going to bless your intentions. He's going to bless your steps. Just like Peter, when he had to step out of the boat and shift his weight from the surety of the boat to the unknown of the water, when Jesus said, come, he did it. That's what you've got to start doing. If there's anything I can do for you, you'll see contact information. Get a hold of us. We're happy to help. All right? Again, my name's Gary Essig. I'm with Protection Specialists International. And remember one thing, we train people to win and win fully.